Hello, everybody, and happy Friday to you. I can't offer you fun little countdown music like Danny can, but I can give you some bird noises, so hopefully that's sufficient. Thank you so much for tuning in. It looks like we've got quite a good crowd today on this sunny Friday. We've got Missy and Celeste checking in, John, Anne, Robert is here, which means I assume Tina's here, Jody, Lisa, Renat, Kat, Carol, Jason, Maria, Mary, Stephanie, Inna, and Mary from Indiana, which is awesome. So good to see all of you. Thank you for tuning in and joining me. I am hanging out in my garden today. It was just too nice outside. We finally had a day that wasn't sweltering and humid. So here I am. I just thought it would be a nice change of scenery. So I'm going to jump right into it today with some art from our boot camp course that students have been working on. And I've said this before, I love sharing art from our boot camp course. A lot of artists that join us for that class are brand new to art, and I think it's just a really great time to celebrate them and their little victories and progress that they make. I want to show off this drawing from Lisa, who conquered her fears and did her homework for Tommy Kane's assignment, his esteemed Draw Your Kitchen assignment. She tackled her kitchen, and she did a lovely job, and I love how it turned out. So Lisa, nice work. We've also got Nancy and Connie and Angelin and Johnny checking in. Awesome, great to see you guys. Another student in boot camp did some homework as part of a tiny adventure in their own backyard. They focused on bee houses in their garden. And I just love that they had some struggles with the roof, and they wrote about this in their post, but they redid it over and over and had this really cool spread of multiple bee houses. And I think it really turned out great. So Jen, nice work on that tiny adventure homework from our boot camp course. A lot of other students right now are working on urban sketching, and now that some of us are still sheltering in place, but other places have opened up a little bit, we've got students that are going out on sketch adventures and drawing on location. And what I love about urban sketching is that there are so many ways to do it, and there are ways to do it safely, even if you're living somewhere where you still need to be careful and you can't venture out too much. So I love seeing how students are flexing their urban sketching muscles these days. Bronwyn Robertson did this amazing full spread. I'm going to make it bigger, have it take over. She did this amazing spread where she filled a whole spread in a very long oriented sketchbook, very horizontally oriented, and she did so many details, and she said she almost got lost in the drawing, which I love. Checking in with Dylan, Corinne, and Daniel. Thanks for joining. But Bronnie said she almost lost track of time with this drawing, and I just love the detail that she achieved, even just in simple black and white. Another student, Midori, I wanted to congratulate. One of her sketches from a museum was actually shared on the museum's website on their Instagram. So getting her art featured by an anthropology museum, I believe in British Columbia, if I'm not mistaken, is really cool. So congrats to Midori for getting her art featured on Instagram by a local anthropology museum. It's so fun. Another student, Russ, did some urban sketching in his own backyard, and this is something that I could take a lesson from, doing some drawing in our yard, and he came up with this beautiful scene, and it's just really simple, and he didn't even have to leave his house for it. So there are ways to do your urban sketching even if you're sheltering in place or stuck at home. So Russ, thank you for sharing that. And Heidi also shared an urban sketch that she did, and she said she attempted this structure more than one time. She said it took her a few sketches to really get the gist of it, but I think what she finally wound up with, and she added a little bit of watercolor wash, was really perfect. I apologize for the plane noise. But Heidi, thank you for sharing this urban sketch, and I think it goes to show you that even if it takes a few tries to really get something right, I think the results were totally worth it. Hoping you can still hear me. Some other art that students are making, we are getting really excited for our Ballpoint Birds sketching workshop this weekend. And Dan actually did this lovely toucan in ballpoint pen. How incredible is this drawing? The colors that he achieved, the textures, and he did all of this in ballpoint pen. So Dan, I love this toucan so much, and I think it's a really good warm-up for our Ballpoint Birds sketching workshop that's happening this weekend. Another student, and I'm going to make this larger, she did a comic based on a conversation that she had at home with her partner. And I think it's really funny and telling about the times that we're living in right now. A lot of us are purging things and getting rid of them. And I love that Tara took this opportunity to make it into a comic based on a conversation that she had at home. And I think it made for a really entertaining and charming little drawing. So Tara, thanks for sharing your comic with us. Another student, Bonnie, did some mixed media work where she did a watercolor scene, and then she actually added, Lisa's asking how long that takes. I'm guessing she refers to the comic. Those can definitely take some time if you're adding in drawings and lettering, so I'm not actually sure how long that took her. But I love this image from Bonnie, who did a little bit of a mixed media approach, and she actually hand carved some of these stamps that she added over top of watercolor. And I just love the use of stamping and that good contrast that she achieved. So Bonnie, thank you for sharing that mixed media piece with us. Another student, Diane, finally took the plunge and experimented with gouache. And I don't know if many of you here have used gouache before, but it's a really fun medium. It's water-based, and it's kind of like a thicker, more opaque watercolor. And I just love the juicy colors and the layers that she was able to achieve. So I'm really glad Diane finally got to play with gouache. And if you've never used it before, I definitely encourage you to give it a try, because it's a really fun medium. And it kind of reminds me of childhood and playing with those really thick, cakey tempera paints as a kid. That's kind of what gouache reminds me of. So give that a try if you're looking for something new in your toolbox. And another student's been experimenting with watercolor. So it's World Watercolor Month, and we have a lot going on in our watercolor rules course in our group, where lots of students are working on watercolor right now. This student, Dana, just did some color studies and played with layering her colors. And even though this is just an abstract color study, I think it's beautiful, and I love looking at it. And in honor of World Watercolor Month, we're going to be having a couple community events for anyone that signed up for our watercolor rules course, whether you signed up in the past or you signed up now. We've got a promotion running on our website. It's $30 off. So we have a lot of students diving into watercolor rules this month, and it's a lot of fun. And in the end of July and then another time in August, we've got details on the schoolyard about these, we're going to be doing some community conversations over Zoom, where students can actually share their homework and things they've been working on in watercolor rules with each other, and then I'll be there, and we'll be able to talk about it and actually show the art that you're making on video. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun, something new for us, but definitely join in on World Watercolor Month if you get a chance. It's been a lot of fun so far, and we're only halfway through July, so we've got some more watercolor to do for sure. So for today's 4-minute focus, for those of you that are just popping in, we're going to do some drawing together. So I want you to grab a sketchbook and something to draw with. And for today's prompt, as I'm outside, so this is relevant to me, I want you to draw something that represents the season that you're in right now, wherever you are. And for me, this could be something, I'm going to take this a little more literally. So it's summer here in Ohio in the US. It's hot, it's humid. I've been focusing on my garden a lot, maybe too much. Kind of frustrated with my garden right now, so that's been something that's been taking up my mental space. But something that really screams summer to me is produce from my garden. And this was actually the first vegetable I actually got out of my garden. I picked it yesterday. Giant yellow squash. I'm going to draw it. It's got little warts and it's kind of fun, and I love the color. So that's what I'm going to focus on today. But I want you to think about something wherever you are that represents the season that you're in. So this could be the weather season. This could be fall, winter, spring, summer, or it could actually be the season that you're in personally. So I know in our lives we go through changes, we kind of shift. The way that we do things, or the way that we're thinking, or our perspectives. So we can also go through seasons ourselves as humans. And that's definitely a very human thing. So you can either take this literally and draw something that has to do with your environment, or you can draw something a little more metaphorical, maybe about how you're feeling these days, what you're going through, what you're thinking about. So I want you to interpret that however you want. But I'm going to start a 4-minute timer. I've got a pen. I've got my squash. You can draw something from your garden if you have one. if you've got potted plants or anything taken off in your backyard right now. Or like I said, you can draw something that's a little more representative of where you're at mentally, your headspace, what's going on with you. So that's what I want you to focus on today. And if you're just popping in, I hope you have a sketchbook and a pen. I'm going to hit the start button on our timer, and I just want you to start drawing. So for some of you, this might be your first drawing of the day, or it could be your last if you're Maria in Moscow and you're headed to bed soon. But I just want you to put pen to paper, and we'll just have this moment to draw together. So for me, as I mentioned, I'm kind of just focusing on the summer season. And we've had some wacky weather when it comes to the growing season here in Ohio in the Midwest. I started all my plants inside as seedlings. It was like a labor of love. And then brought them outside. And I don't know if I didn't harden them off properly. But we had some weird weather. We had a really wet spring that was very short, and then super hot heat. So whatever it was, that combination, I just don't think that my plants liked it a lot. So I'm not getting a ton of vegetables. So this squash was certainly a triumph. And I'm, thinking about what I'm going to make with it, and I'm going to savor it. But I hope those of you that are here are drawing with me right now. And I'll be curious to see in the schoolyard and on social media, if you use the hashtag daily drawing habit, I want to see what you came up with. And what seasons, you guys are in right now. And you can share that in the chat, but I do hope you're drawing with me, because that's the point. I'd love to see what you came up with once we're done. But yeah, for me, I've just been focusing a lot on the garden, and it might be because of quarantine and having a lot more time at home. But for me, I've found that I'm fixated on it and kind of growing frustrated with its lack of progress. So for me, I think there's a parallel there to the creative habit and kind of how we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, right? So my husband gives me a hard time, my dad gives me a hard time about just being patient and just waiting it out, and that we still have a lot more time left in the growing season. But I am just getting antsy and I want more vegetables. So that's kind of where I'm at right now personally. But I'm hoping that whatever season you're in, whatever you're drawing or depicting, that you're doing well and staying healthy. So Alaya is also in the summer season, so probably getting some warm weather, maybe some vegetables, hopefully. Hopefully more than I'm getting right now in my garden. But I do think it's a good lesson to kind of remind ourselves to not be so hasty and, not expect instant results. I think we feel that way a lot with our drawing and our creative practice. So maybe I just need to take those reminders that we preach at Sketchbook Skool and apply those to my own backyard. That might be my issue. But I'm going to celebrate this little squash. I'm very proud that it actually sprouted and was ready to be harvested and didn't get eaten by critters. That's another victory. So I think I'm finding that I can definitely see the positives as I'm sitting down to draw this. So that might be a way for you to sort of honor wherever you're at right now. Maybe if you're drawing it, you're putting it on the page, kind of acknowledging it. And maybe you're going through a season that's kind of crappy and doesn't feel good. There's also times when we're kind of going through growth spurts, and I think that could be a good reminder that we can honor that time and learn from it and move on. So lots of reminders today that I think could apply to lots of different areas of our lives. And I hope that you're all drawing with me and honoring whatever season you're choosing to depict. And I will show you my little celebration of summer here in a minute. Looks like our timer just went off. My neighbor just drove by with really loud music. So this is my squash. Just a little lumpy guy, but I'm excited to add this bright yellow color here in a second. But I hope that you were able to draw with me. I know those 4-minute focus periods feel so fast, but for me they're really grounding, and I think it's a nice time to just sit down and pause and kind of quiet my brain. Now granted, I'm talking to you guys through all of it, so that's not a very quiet activity, but it is meditative, And I hope that you get to have that moment as well on this Friday. And I hope that you're about to have an awesome and creative weekend, and that you're staying safe and healthy wherever you are, and that we see those drawings, whether it's on social media with the hashtag Daily Drawing Habit or in the schoolyard. So be sure to show us what you're making. Stick with it and keep making art, and we will see you around next week. And we'll see some of you tomorrow for our Ballpoint Birds workshop. But whatever the case, have an awesome weekend, and we'll see you in the schoolyard.